Oh God, this has been hard work. 1% left in the battery. 1%, boys and girls. Anyone run their battery down to 1%? I have.
Hello again, YouTube, and welcome back to Just Get a Tesla. And today we're going to do some extreme range testing of my all-wheel drive Model Y Juniper. Can it actually do the advertised range? The simple reality is that in Europe, where cars have to be advertised with range in WLTP, that number isn't accurate, not remotely accurate, and it's one of the big complaints you get with people who buy EVs where they say, oh, it's supposed to do this and it's only getting that. Is it broken? And I actually understand the concern when people, new owners, post things like that on Facebook groups because they've effectively been lied to. Tesla don't believe for a minute that the car can get anywhere near the WLTP measure, which for this car is 364 miles. We're going to do a little bit of testing. So I'm here in Stockton-on-Tees. I need to drive home to Northern Aberdeenshire. It's not quite 364 miles, but it's certainly north of 330. So let's see whether we can get there without a charge. Okay, so I lied, it's 329 miles, not north of 330, but it's close enough. The thing is, I have in recent days been really wafting it along. So you can see on the 100-mile average, 389 miles or 383 on the 200. This should be easy, surely. And it's a nice day, it's mostly sunny, it's 14 degrees. This, I'm hoping, is doable. Although it's going to have its challenges. Look, we do have options of all kinds of charging stops if they're needed. I mean, there's chargers, obviously, at Edinburgh, there's chargers at Perth, at Dundee, there's one in Aberdeen. But I think I'm not going to need them. I mean, it's saying, look, stay below 59 miles an hour to reach the destination above 12%. Well, this is going to be interesting. Exactly how far can we get before it starts shouting at me? I actually tried this in the old Model Y. So I don't know whether you've seen that video from last year, I think it was, where I tried to do this exact same thing. Charge the car here to 100%. How far can we get? And then it didn't work. I was probably going too fast and there were traffic conditions and whatever else. So in the end, I bailed out. This time, there is no bailing out, right? No bailing out. We are going to go for it. So we've just set off and it's saying stay below 59 miles an hour to reach destination above 12%. Okay, so that says I'll comfortably make it there, but at the moment it's saying I'm going to arrive on 1%. We'll see. This is going to be interesting. 25 miles done and we're on 210 watt hours per mile. The Durham section of the A19 is properly up and down, so we have had some climbing. There's another little bit of climbing ahead before we head for the time tunnel and beyond, so that's okay. Actually, the traffic for most of the run has been like this, so although I'm doing truck speed, which is pretty slow, it doesn't actually feel like I'm losing that much ground because yes, that lane is going faster than this one, but I'm not holding people up. If anything, there's been a few points where I'm being held up by other people. So this is fine so far. It's saying I'm going to arrive home now on 2%, and it's still saying below 59 miles an hour to arrive above 12%. I actually think this is going to be a doddle this time. On the previous car, okay, so I think I was doing 60 to 65 on here from what I remember instead of 55, but by the time I got anywhere near Edinburgh it was clear that I was not going to make it. I don't think I'm going to have that problem this time. I think actually unless something extraordinary happens and the range starts dropping, then this actually feels absolutely fine. Let's see. We're at the bottom of the time tunnel and we're on 177 watt hours per mile, so absurd efficiency again. It's now literally uphill because we're at the bottom of the trench under the river. We're going to start climbing, and then there's
a little bit more climbing, so 176 as it is now. That is the lowest we're going to see it for a while, but it'll be interesting to see where we can get to. The reason why we're going the East Coast route and staying on the A1 is largely because it's flatter, yeah, flatter and less bends and things that you need to speed up and slow down for. I think I'll be able to do a fairly steady speed on there, and that should be fantastic for efficiency, which is exactly what we want for this trip. The things that I'm having to do though to try and get anywhere near the advertised figure. 50 miles in now, Morpeth bypass, and we've got 196 watt-hours per mile showing, so 5.1 or something miles per kilowatt hour, I'm guessing, but it's north of 5 at least. And we're saying 3% now on arrival. Look, I expect that this number will drop because this is the last dual carriageway section, and then it's basically a single carriageway road, mostly between here and Dunbar, east of Edinburgh. So it's going to be, we can probably do 56 most of the way unless there's trucks going even slower, but relatively flat, relatively steady. My efficiency number will improve. I am certain that over the next 50 or so miles that is going to keep dropping, but again, we will see. 10 miles or so south of Berwick, so still in England. Something very interesting is happening down here on the range prediction. So I've now got 77% in the battery, and as you can see, since we left we've done nearly 87 miles and we're on 189 watt-hours per mile. 189. So when you go on to range, and let's look at this again over the last 100 miles, so a projected range still in the battery of 325 miles, and it's 242 miles to home. So according to the live energy use charts, I have got 80 miles of buffer, and despite that it's predicting I'm going to arrive home with 0 in the battery. Okay, 80 miles of buffer versus 0 buffer. We're at the end of the Berwick bypass, but instead of turning left towards Scotland, I'm turning right, and I'm going to go into the shop and get a snack. So we've been going for 2.25 hours and I'm ready for a little break. So whether I am charging or not, yeah, I'm not going to be driving non-stop. And this seems to be the main argument that fuel car defenders seem to have about, you know, being able to have the range and stopping and whatever else. Well, I don't want to drive 400 miles non-stop or 8 hours non-stop or whatever it is, and neither should they, because it's dangerous. You know, you're not actually supposed to do things like that. So it almost, to me, doesn't matter, right? If the range is usable, that's it, right? It doesn't need to be anything more than that, because otherwise I'm going to be stopping anyway. Okay, we are, you've just seen us go past Tranent Nuclear Power Station. So we are now on 2/3 of the battery, okay, and we've done 126 miles. So that is giving us a range of what, 378 miles, yeah, which is quite a lot. Quite a lot. The WLTP is what, 364. So at the moment I'm beating WLTP. But interestingly enough, so with again 2/3 of the battery left, I'm calculating that as being what, 252 or something of range. That's saying 279 on the 100 mile, 283 on the 200 mile. 375. So I think that we have got even longer legs than the car is suggesting. And okay, so yes, I'm doing 90 kilometers an hour, I'm doing truck speed, Okay, so beyond Island, when he does all his various tests, he does different speeds. So I am very deliberately pacing this and sitting at what I do believe is the car's most efficient speed, which is basically this. But also because I've gone the A1 route, apart from the occasional roundabout that you get, it's largely pretty straight without significant bends and obstacles that you need to slow down for, and it's relatively flat because it's hugging the coast, and that again is great for efficiency. So it's going to be interesting to see just how much juice is left in the tank. The car is still forecasting, by the way, that in the 202 miles left to go to get home on, that I'm going to arrive on 0, right? Well, 0.5%. So 202 miles, arriving on 0.5%, despite the fact that it says that I've got 275 miles. So again, the car is guessing, and it's guessing wrong. It's that straightforward, really. It's wrong. 150 miles since we left this morning. We're still on 61% in the battery. We've done 190 watt hours per mile, and the car is now saying I'm going to arrive home on 5%, but that's 180 miles still to run. I am still going to have somewhere around 70 miles of range according to the actual live forecast. 70 miles of range is more than 5%. So I expect that number, and I think it's just gone up from 4% to 5%. That is going to keep going up. This is saying, you know, stay below 63 miles an hour to get there with it above 7%. I am pretty confident that we're going to get there. This is Navigate on autopilot doing a bit of a swervy job, actually, taking me onto the slip road, but never mind. Anyway, I am quite confident now that I'm going to arrive with, what, I don't know, 12% as my guess, something like that, still in the battery, having done 329 miles, probably 330 by the time I've taken a couple of little diversions off for the one stop I've done, and there's another one I'm going to do in Dundee. So yeah, I think we've got absolutely bags of power. On the M90, just passing Kinross services, and we've just gone to 50% in the battery, so 190 miles and half the battery gone. So that gives us a full to empty range of what, 380 miles, which is that's above WLTP. So the car says 163 miles. That's based on what's the American one? Anyway, based on the American one, they're saying 163. I've actually done 190 to halfway, but the car is suggesting 198 or even 204. So, I mean, if it was around 200 miles on top of the 190, like 390, so 380, 390 miles of range, basically at this speed. I mean, that's impressive, you know, considering this is the all-wheel drive dual motor car, which is supposed to be less efficient. That's going a blooming long way. I think I've said this quite a few times though on videos, that I don't know what magic that Tesla have pulled off with the Model Y Juniper rather than the old Model Y, but the efficiency is off the scale. I haven't stopped being impressed with how little power the thing burns. Yeah, so you know, I'm looking at some of these real world tests now of this new I think I mentioned it earlier, Mercedes CLA. That'll do 400 miles. Well, great, this is doing 400 miles. That might go faster doing 400 miles, but then again, it's got a much bigger battery than this has. So, and it costs quite a lot more as well, I believe. Anyway, we're going to keep going. On the concrete delights of the Brecon bypass, heading up between Dundee and Aberdeen. We're just going through 250 miles on the trip. I did have a brief pause in Dundee because, again, I am biological. The car is not. It didn't need a stop. I did. Anyway, 250 miles. We are on 191 watt hours per mile. So again, we're still comfortably north of 5 miles per kilowatt hour. And we're on 34% in the battery. So before I was saying 125 miles per third, so puts us on 375, 380. We're still in that absolute ballpark. So 251 miles we're coming up on now. We're still on 34, and it's telling me that we've got, well, 137, 134. We've burned slightly more doing a little bit of hill climbing, but basically if you look at either of those, 137, 134 on top of 250, you're looking at 385, somewhere around that, in terms of full to empty, which again is 20 miles more than WLTP. So we are beating WLTP. We are beating it, and that's despite the fact that we're doing a long trip. I mean, you know, 250 miles so far, and we're absolutely smashing it. So I don't know how far that I can actually get this thing to go, but it's again going to be fun finding out. We're now forecast at 10% when I get home. I had said 12, so that's continuing to increase. It might actually be closer to 15%. 25% now left in the battery. We're on 282 miles, and there's still 49 miles to run, although I suspect it's actually going to be a couple of miles more than that, because I'm not going to go the exact route back that it's suggesting. Yeah, I'm honestly astonished. This is the furthest that I've ever driven this car. In fact, this is the furthest I've attempted to drive this car, and not just this, but actually any EV. This is, you know, once I go past 300 miles, and that obviously we'll have that bit. That's a bit where you are going into the realms of like the ooh. Oh look, I know there'll be people going, Ian, my car does this. It's like, fine, great. I haven't done it yet, because with respect to it, I need to stop anyway. So if I'm stopping, I might as well stick the car on charge, and that's normally the pattern. I don't have to drive all day without a brake, right? I've got to have a brake, so I might as well plug the thing in, and if I'm doing that, I don't need to charge it to 100%. But this I am doing for science. It's always for science. We're doing it for scientific research, and yeah, I'm impressed. Coming up now on 300 miles, we're getting really close to that, and I've just pulled the energy charts back up again for you, because on the 10-mile average, and this is the Aberdeenshire Western Peripheral, which is a bit hilly as you can see, but look at this, as an average 168 watt hours per mile in the last 10 miles, so it gives you an average a range to go of 92, or on this 77, 78. These will be more accurate, right? 77, 78, somewhere around that. So let's call it 78, and we're on 299.8. I've got to go all beyond Island. 299.9. And then 300. So 300 miles driven today. We've still got 20% in the battery. We've got another 76, 78, 100. It's going to beat WLTP. Okay, so I am going to defeat the WLTP mileage, which is not just impossible, but it's practically insane. Of course, the car is now trying to tell me that we're absolutely fine on range. If you remember earlier, it was offering me all kinds of lower numbers, but suddenly now that's saying 65 miles. This is saying, well, forget that one, 77, 79. So we've got plenty left in the tank on 20%. And it is now request lane change to follow route. No, we definitely do not want to be in the right hand lane. Again, I don't know what it's thinking, right? But we do not want to be in the right hand lane. Anyway, the interesting thing about this is it is now predicting 12% in the battery when I get home, and as I say, it is creeping up. So I said it'd be closer to 15%, and we'll see where my guess was. 12% though wasn't a bad guess, because wasn't it on like 2% or something when I guessed that, or 0 even? So the fact that it's now up to there does show that we are definitely being closer to So not we, the car is getting closer to reality with the numbers that it's putting up, because it wasn't before. At one point we were down to -2 was its prediction, which obviously was just nonsense. So yeah, let's see where we get to. Actually, I've gone too fast. I'm supposed to be doing 56, darling. So slow it back down a little bit. 58, 57, and then we'll... Wow! So I am going home via Mintlaw, which is 2 miles further round, but faster than the other route, which has got tight bends and other such things. I should be able to maintain a relatively steady 50 or so along here, a little bit faster obviously for some of it, but even on the single carriageway section we've just been on as well, I mean look, the 10-mile average is still 181 watt hours per mile, offering me a further 69, dude. 68 now, 68 miles worth of additional range on top of the 315 that we have done so far. Okay, I've just gone through 330 miles. There's still 12% in the battery, and I would have got home on 12%, but I'm now not going home. I'm now just driving for the sake of driving, because I want to see how far I can go. Yeah, I want to see how far I can go. And at the moment, okay, as you can see, the road I'm on is a bit twistier. That's suggesting I've got another 44 miles. Well, 44 miles will beat WLTP. So, that's what we're now going to do. I'm basically going to add some miles on, and we're going to beat WLTP. I am now just driving around trying to burn miles, okay? So we're on 342, and we've still got 38 miles left in the battery with 9%, okay? So I'm basically just going to go, I think, up and down here, because this is reasonably fast, and we're going to burn miles until the point where I need to brake and go home. Okay, that's the point then when I'll stop. The plan is definitely to beat WLTP, if nothing else. Even if I don't push the battery to the absolute brink of nothing, I'm going to do WLTP. So, how far do I go before I start to think, ooh, that's too far? So, 342 miles, and we're still going. 350 miles, 350 miles, and we're still going. Battery has just dropped to 6%, and we've got a predicted range now of 25 miles. I suspect that's going to be affected dynamically by the fact that I've just had to do a little bit of hill climbing. Okay, so well, let's keep an eye on that and see what it does, but 25 miles will put me on 375, and if you recall, 375, 380 is basically what it's been predicting since, what, 125 miles or so. I think I did 125, 126 miles with a third of the battery, so it was pointing at that, and we're still on track to get that. So that I think is the next marker, is can we actually get to 375 miles? I'm not sure that we can, but certainly we're going to beat WLTP, which is 364. I've only got another 13, 14 miles, actually 14 to beat it, that I need to do. So we're going to keep an eye on this, because obviously I've got to make sure I can actually get home. That would probably be a good idea. Anyway, the battery is going to go from orange to red when it gets to 5%. Because it starts shouting at you. I've already had a warning on screen telling me that I need to plan my next charging stop. Don't worry, there is a plan. That seems to be dropping fairly precipitously as well. It's like now dropped to 22. That's quite interesting. I mean, I suppose it's gone to 218 suddenly because I had that, yes, because I had that big spike. So it might be that. We'll keep an eye on it. 360 miles. Well, actually just tipping over onto 361 because my GoPro decided to stop working again. 361 miles, 3% left in the battery, and I've got 11 miles of range left. So 361 plus 11 gets me to 372, and it was forecasting around 375. So that feels, again, pretty accurate. I am definitely heading for home now though. I live, yes, I know. I live in the countryside, so running out of power in the middle of nowhere is probably a bad idea. So we're going to head home. I am going to beat WLTP very, very shortly. Okay, we have just hit 364 miles. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, in the United Kingdom, 364 miles is the advertised range for this car. And I've had to work really quite hard and drive really gently today to be able to achieve the advertised range, which is why nobody actually sees or gets the advertised range unless you're doing it for science, as I'm doing now. I've got, well, it says 2% in the battery, but it'll be more like 1 and a bit percent, and it's saying I've got 7 miles of range left. Also, the last 10 miles, it's now up to 227, and the reason for that is my village is up a big hill, and you probably might, well, you maybe can tell on the camera, but we are climbing, and hill climbing takes battery. So 2% and 364.9. Where is it? 365 miles. I have beaten WLTP. I have beaten it. I have defeated it. I have vanquished it. Oh God, this has been hard work. 1% left in the battery. 1%, boys and girls. Anyone run their battery down to 1%? I have. I arrived into a supercharger once on 0.5%. There is a realistic chance here that I'm going to arrive on 0. So what we're going to do now is we're going to leave the camera running, and I basically need to YOLO it around a couple of these bends to maintain momentum. Yeah, I'm going to be on 0. I'm a couple of miles from home. A couple of miles from home. And I know that the reserve does go quite deep, but this really is pushing it to the absolute extremities. I did say, and I did promise, extreme range testing, did I not? This is about as extreme as it gets when you're going to arrive on nout. And we've got the final little bits of hill climbing to do before we eventually roll, and I will be roll, into my village. Also, there's quite a few bars have disappeared in terms of power, so I've got dashes now up at the top. Yeah. And obviously I have slowed down from the 50-55 that I was doing. That would seem sensible. But we are nearly there. 3 miles of range. 366 now. So I'm going to have beaten it, but only just. But only just. So while I've been driving around and adding additional miles on, because I could have been home an hour ago, I have been trying to estimate how far I could actually push it, okay, how far I can go before I'm at risk of not actually getting home. And obviously I have pushed this for your viewing pleasure, as always, to the absolute nth degree, because I'm now on 1% with 2 miles left. 2 miles left. Wow. But there is good news. Is it going to actually drop to 0? But there is good news, because I'm home. I live here. So there you have it. I've just arrived back and battery is too low. Charge immediately to ensure vehicle will start, to remain responsive, and to avoid potential battery repair. Immediately. You don't see that very often, but there it is. There's the numbers. 368 miles. Okay, 368 with an average of 196.7. I mean, what's that? 5.1 miles per kilowatt hour? It's astonishing. But to get that,
I've had to do truck speed the entire way back, and I do mean the entire way back. There were several bits where I'm not exactly drafting the trucks, but I'm just sat following them and going along. Or where there weren't any trucks, I'm still doing the same speed as if I was a truck. That is how you get north of 5 miles per kilowatt hour on a long trip. Okay, so I even had to choose the route that was going to be the most economical, because there are more direct routes back to get here by going through the Scottish borders, but they are twistier and they are hillier, and you're going to use more energy because you're speeding up and then you're slowing down as you get to a bend, and speeding up again and then slowing down. And of course you've got hill climbing. Had I gone, having gone through the Tyne Tunnel and got to Morpeth, I could have turned off left then and gone through Coldstream, but then I've got to climb Sutra Bar on the approach to Edinburgh. That would have taken a bucket load of power, and I wouldn't have made it this far. Only by sticking on the longer, flatter A1 coastal route was I able to actually do this. And then at the end, 375 was the number that was being predicted all the way up, and it fell off that essentially because of the final bit of hill climbing. Because while I've been driving around, I went down into Fraserburgh and then back up again. So you're going all the way down to the sea, and then you're having to climb back up to the, you know, heights that I'm at now. And that burned a whole chunk of power. I mean, the last 10 miles, instead of doing 196.9 watt hours per mile, as I've done on the whole trip, I've done 254.4. So that's underneath 4 miles per kilowatt hour instead of 5. And when you're down on less than 1% in the battery, that makes a big difference. So, top tip, if you want to get your car in the United Kingdom to do the advertised range, don't. Just don't. You do not need to go this far. And I've had to have multiple stops anyway, because I've been driving all day to be able to pull this off. So there it is. Can you beat WLTP? Yes. Do I recommend trying? No. And on that rather definitive note, we're going to leave it there. I hope you've enjoyed this. Like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I will see you back here very soon on Just Get a Tesla.